United States government shutdown goes for on the long enough, it could throw a wrench of the travel plans to dust, potentially leading to longer airport wait times, flight delays, and even cancellations. Also, the shutdown began on the Wednesday after the President Donald Trump and the Congress failed to reach a deal to continue the funding government services and operations. That means a vast majority of the employees who keep the United States airports and the air travel running are working without pay until the government reopens. Also, the longer a shutdown drags on, the more likely we are to see longer TSA lines, flight delays and cancellation, the national parks in the disrepair, and also unnecessary delays in modernizing the travel infrastructure, the Geoff Freeman, president and the CEO of the United States Travel Association, warned in a statement. Here's what to know about the shutdown and its potential impact on our travel plans. Travelers can still fly despite the lapse in the funding, and early on in the shutdown, they might not even notice any issue at the airport. The control towers and the airport security checkpoints will still be staffed with about 1,300 and 200 something air traffic controllers and also more than 61,000 Transportation Security Administration employees expected to remain on the job. But as more time passes for the workers since their last paycheck, travelers could start to see longer lines at the security and the flight interruptions, said the Jeffrey Price, the professor of aviation at the Metropolitan State University of Denver. The system does become a little bit more brittle. The longer this goes, the more the travelers is going to notice it, the prince said. Also, that's what happened back in the 2018 and 2019 when the Donald Trump led the country into its longest shutdown, even for 35 days during his first term. About 3 weeks into that shutdown, some unpaid security screeners started calling in sick, and air traffic controllers sued the government in a bid to get their paychecks. Miami International Airport had to temporarily close one of its terminals because the TSA officers were calling in sick at twice the airport's usual rate. The latest shutdown is unfolding at a time when both the TSA and the Federal Aviation Administration are already facing staffing shortages, including a shortage of about 3,000 air traffic controllers. If the system can't handle the number of flights that are scheduled, the FAA will also slow down landings and takeoffs, and passengers will see more delay and cancellations. The agency has done that recently when it didn't have enough controllers to handle all the flights coming in and out of the Newark airport after technical problems there. Nick Daniel, the president of the union that represents the air traffic controllers, said a shutdown weakens the aviation safety system by adding stress on the controllers and taking away many of the workers that support them and maintain the outdated systems they rely on. They're also out there working right now with the critical staffing, the lowest staffing we've had in decades, only 10,800 right now, where it should be around 14,600, and on top of that, they're working with unreliable equipment, Daniel said. During the 35-day shutdown during the Donald Trump's first term, controllers in the busiest U.S. air traffic facility reported working as much as 60 hours per week, and an increasing number of the TSA agents also quit their job. This is more than just an inconvenience to the traveler, Price said. The shutdown. Also, this is definitely going to bring up the safety and security issues if it really starts to go into the long term. The ports of entry into the country are expected to stay open for the international travelers, according to the Department of Homeland Security's contingency plan. The department estimated that about 63,000 workers at the Custom and Border Protection would still report to work. Also, they include employees who are reasonable and responsible for the protecting of the country's border and monitoring the traffic coming into the United States at the official border crossing like the airports and the land crossings from the Canada and Mexico. The United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, the agency responsible for overseeing the naturalization process, is primarily funded by the application fee, meaning a lapse in the funding at the federal government has minimal impacts on most passport and visa processing. The agency spokesperson Matthew Tragesser also said in the statement, however, that the shutdown does temporarily shutter the agency's E-Verify program, a free online system that the employers can use to confirm their new employees are authorized to work in the United States. The Smithsonian Museum, the Research Center, and the National Zoo were also scheduled to stay open to the public through at least the October 6th. Further updates will be posted on the Smithsonian website. Also, Smithsonian is the world's largest museum complex with the 17 museum and its zoo located in the Washington, D.C. area, as well as the 2 museums in the New York City. The national parks will also remain mostly open during the shutdown. The National Park Service contingency plan says that the park roads, lookouts, the trails, and the open-air memorials will also generally remain accessible to the visitors, but the parks without the accessible areas will be closed, and additional sites could also shutter if the damage is done to the park resources or the garbage built up during the shutdown. The Park Service oversees 40 and 400 other sites, including the large national parks such as the Yellowstone and the Grand Canyon, the national battlefields, and the national monuments like the Statue of Liberty.